Okay, so here we are today to discuss the topic on home ownership. And my name is Olukemi Agbeje. I know we have some new folks on the call that probably this is your first time. So I'm the founder of Investors Hub, and the reason why we put Investors Hub in place is to help Nigerians, both in Nigeria and diaspora, to make the best of their finances. If you can see on the screen, you could see our website. You could see this saying, "Earn, save, invest, protect, and build a legacy." That is all we do. We help our members provide the tools, financial literacy, the knowledge that they need, and everything that they need to help them build generational wealth. We're very passionate about professionals, and our goal is to help professionals to move from the place where they're just earning and meeting, their day-to-day needs to for them to be able to build a legacy. So if you're looking for how to start your invested journey and you're like, you know what, I want my hair game in 2026, and you feel like maybe there are areas you're struggling with, whether you don't know what to invest in or you don't know how to, the return on investment that you're getting is not the best, or you've also been involved in, MMM and a lot of other things that you've been unhappy with, then you are in the right place. Please just go to our website, investorshubng.com. You see the services that we render. We have an investment club, we have a cooperative, and if you want a one-on-one session, like I always recommend that for people that earn, quite significantly, so that you can get a financial plan and you have a roadmap, to work with. And I always say the best time to start planning is now. I know there's always this move at the end of the year where everybody just have these goals. You go to church, or if you're a Muslim, you go to mosque and you have all those raised up like this is what you want to plan. But for you to achieve those, it's better you start now. Don't wait till December 31st. Most times we overestimate what we can achieve in a year, but underestimate what we can achieve in 5 years and 10 years. Most of the time, what makes the huge difference, and for people that are successful, they don't just work with a 1 year plan. They work with 5 years, they work with 10 years. So you have a clear roadmap of where you're going and what you want to achieve by that period. Then you can take that step by step, action that will make you achieve the desired result. Today we have in our midst Mr. Nundada, and we have the pleasure of having the manager of Stanbic IBTC Home Loans. So I want us to hear from the horse's mouth, right? Initially, I was like, let me do the webinar. I said, no, let's call Mr. Nundada. He has the details. I don't want to filter. I don't want to be the middleman. I want you guys to hear right from the person, that does this on a day-to-day basis, helping families to, buy their homes, so that he can share with us the success stories, the pitfalls that we can avoid, and how we can fast track, what our goals are. So we have that pleasure. I want us to give him a warm Investors Hub welcome. Just use the digital emojis, to clap and just give him a warm welcome. I know we can't see each other physically, but we can do that. So I'll just do a little introduction of Mr. Nundada. He is a result-driven business development and product management professional with a strong background in financial services. He holds an MBA and is a certified project manager and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Loan and Risk Management. Over the years, Loan has built a proven track record in credit and loan risk analysis, product innovation, and strategic business growth. His career spans various roles across the banking and microfinance sectors, where he has successfully led initiatives in credit evaluation, business planning, negotiation, and product development. None has also demonstrated remarkable adaptability, transitioning from traditional banking into product management, a move that has allowed him to merge analytical expertise with creative business strategy. Known is currently the manager, Home Loans, Stanbic IBTC Bank, where he's empowering and helping families live their dreams of home ownership. I love that last line. He's helping families to live their dreams of home ownership. You know, before this event, I was just trying to think of what are the issues. Mr. Non will talk about Mreif loan, which is, a loan in partnership between the federal government and private sector to bring down the challenge that we have with home ownership in Nigeria. And one of the main challenges is the cost, right? And the gap with, mortgage being inaccessible. I currently live in Canada, and I know for people that are outside the country, right, whether you're in Canada, in the US or UK, like once you're working, you just need to walk into a bank or you walk into a credit union, whatever financial industry. Once you have your down payment and you can find the kind of house, it's kind of easy. Like it doesn't matter the kind of job that you're doing, whether you're a driver or whatever it is. But we know that in Nigeria is not that way. Like the mortgage is into double digit, 20 something percent. In fact, I had a friend that said he got a mortgage from a financing company and they charged him 40 something percent, probably because they knew he was just very keen on having the house. So you can imagine if you're paying 40 something percent of mortgage, that means in 2 years, you've paid double of the price of the house that you're buying. And even for developers, you see someone telling you to come and buy a house of 200 million and that you should pay within a year. So if you're telling me to pay for a house of 200 million within a year, that means you're expecting me to pay 20 million every month. And let's be honest with ourselves, how many people earn that amount? Even for people that are earning decently, maybe you're earning like 2 million a month or 3 million. So how do you get that money? So those are the major gaps that we have in the country. And when I heard about the Mreif loan, I was just so excited. Number one, it's an avenue for you to get loan at single digit, less than 10%. Initially, it was 12%, and they dropped it to 9.7%, 75%. Isn't that amazing? Number one, you could pay up to like 20 years if you're 40 or less, right? 60 minus your age. And you can also do it jointly with your spouse. That's another interesting thing. If both of you are working, they can access how much based on your profiles, not just you alone. So it has so many wonderful features that will make it work for everybody. And shortly before I just give Mr. Dada the floor so that he can share with us what we have today, please, I want us to ask lots of questions. This is not an informative session. I need to get that clear. It is a practical session. Number one, the objective of this call today is, after listening to this call, if you plan to buy your house, let's hit the ground running. When I sent that thing out, I told people, I was like, if you're ready to get your house in a year or less, those are the people we want to work with. Because we also want to help you like fast track your own buying. One other thing is for people that are very busy, sometimes you don't have the opportunity of viewing houses. We have partnership with some developers and agents that can help you look for a house, right? So that once you get the house that you want that meets all the criteria, then you can go to Stanbic, get your loan and get it easy. So we want to make the process easy for you. So it's not an informative session that you learn and go and sleep. No, please, all the questions that you have, be free, either drop it in the chat box or please just raise your hand digitally, then I'll call you to speak to Mr. Dada, whatever questions that you have. I will just share this shortly, these statistics before we start. Okay, so there's this statistics. Can you see my screen? While just preparing for these, I was checking. So what is the current situation? We know the situation is bad in Nigeria in terms of homes, but how bad is it? And I was so excited when I saw this report from the CBN. Can you see my screen, everybody, please? Can I have a yes? Oh, okay. Can we see my screen? I can't see anybody confirm. Yes, okay. Thank you. So this is the start from CBN. Very nice report on home ownership. And it's saying that only 10% of those who desire to own a home in Nigeria end up like can afford it. And for me, I'm sure that is because before I left Nigeria, of course, I was working in the banking industry. If you talk about people earning well in Nigeria, you say, okay, oil companies and all that, then at least bankers will be like top five, right? If you leave politicians and all that. So, but a lot of people don't own homes because it's just a challenge, right? Like, it's not easily accessible. The bureaucracy is so much and all that. So, I understand that fact that only 10% of those who desire to own a home in Nigeria can afford it. This is compared to like 70% in the US. In fact, in Singapore, is like it's something percent. So you can see that gap. I was even surprised that it's not just even, we always like to say abroad, even in other African countries like Ghana, South Africa, it wasn't that bad. Like they could own find it easier to buy home. So what is the challenge, right? And as of 2019, the deficit in terms of ownership in Nigeria was 20 million. Now is 28 million. And you could see in that table being shared, like initially it was mortgage inefficiency. That would have even been easier to do, right? To just incorporate and reach out to like commercial bank, mortgage banks and help. But over the years, it became worse. In 2007, it became like slum, demolition, and urban migration. Everybody was moving into the cities. By the time it was between 2013 to 2015, it was overpopulation. That resonates, right? Because Lagos, they don't have like population of 20 million and above, right? And increased poverty. People were not getting jobs that could pay for their, people were just barely getting by. Like they could not even meet their basic needs, right? Talk less of, owning a home is another level. So if you've not met your basic needs in terms of eating, paying for school fees and other things, you will not think of owning a home. Then between 2017 and 2019, this report was in 2019, increased poverty, you could see overpopulation. You could see how the arrangement, the sequence is changing, right? Initially it was overpopulation. Now you could see that now it's poverty, overpopulation, and urban migration. And lots of people, I have someone that wanted to rent a house and was like, Kemi, the houses I'm getting is between 6, 7, and 7 million annually. Someone was like, I need 15 million to rent a house. So you can imagine if you're renting a house at 15 million, how do you save to buy your own home? So those are some of the challenges. The chunk of the disposable income, which is the income that people have after meeting their basic needs, they're just using it for rent, which is also the challenge whereby people are unable to save enough for down payment. We'll talk about that today, and I'm sure Mr. Dada will cover that. I don't want to talk a lot. So with this one, welcome, Mr. Dada, please, you have the floor. I just thought to share these statistics, before you start. Thank you so much. I think you have the right to share.
Thank you very much, Olukemi. I thought it's even better for me to just take the back seat and allow you to do
No.
the whole presentation because you've said all about the product, and you've also done some deep dive into the macro, of the real estate, and not far from the truth, the housing deficit in Nigeria keeps growing daily, and that has led to this new intervention that has been made by the federal government in collaboration with some private and corporate investors in Nigeria. And they've come around with the Mreif, which is called the Real Estate Investment Fund. I'll be sharing my screen. So it's in two parts. We'll just take you through. Like I said, the look at me as actually, giving us the basic information we need to know about this product. I'll just add a little flesh to it, and then thereafter we can take question and answer so that we are able to then come to a good understanding of the product, right? The product again is Mreif. Full meaning of Mreif is Real Estate Investment Fund. And this is a 1 trillion naira fund that has been brought together purposely for home ownership for Nigerians in Nigeria and for Nigerians in diaspora. This fund is also available for employed individuals and self-employed individuals in Nigeria. and also employed individuals in diaspora. This is a 1 trillion naira investment fund purposely directed towards home ownership, and it's just to tackle the housing deficit that we have in Nigeria. Figures as she has shared, last I checked, it was about 25 million, but from the updated report I have just read now from her, I could see 28 million, and that's not far from the truth. But with this intervention fund, I can tell you that by the time the revised figure is brought out, it would have really gone down. Because imagine injecting a 1 trillion naira into the system purposely and directed specifically for home ownership, buying residential property, it definitely will make an effect. At the moment, the first tranche of this scheme has been launched since June, and that is 250 billion naira. And in this whole scheme, why it's different from every other scheme that you might have heard, which again might be a turn off for you, especially when you hear about that the funding is from government, is the fact that there is a fund manager involved in this. You know, if you look at the other scheme that you might be aware of, they are usually handled directly by government. And even when an approval is in place to disburse this facility to you, they tell you that you are on queue to get funds, from government. But this is clearly different. A new approach was taken in this, and a fund manager was brought into this. And that's why many times where you hear of Mreif, you also hear about ARM. ARM is not the owner of the scheme, neither are they the owner of funds. They are just investment, the fund manager. So federal government has brought some funds through Ministry of Finance, right? And some corporate investors have also brought some funds and all added it together and put it in the care of ARM. At the moment, we have 150 billion naira from federal government and we have 100 billion naira from private corporate investors. And this 250 billion naira has been warehoused with ARM. Disbursement started in June, and I can tell you for a fact that Stanbic IBTC happens to be the bank to carry out the first disbursement on this scheme. And this disbursement is easier so far you meet all the requirements. And I can tell you for a fact, the money is accessible. And for us to also get to understand how accessible this fund is, as of today in Stanbic IBTC, less than 6 months on this fund, we've done over close to 15 billion naira in disbursement only on this Mreif. And why is it talk of the town? It is because of the interest rate. Remember the introductory part of Olukemi, she mentioned how expensive mortgage is, and that has always been the conversation. You talk about mortgage to people, no one wants to listen to you, and it's become a very hard nut to crack. Selling mortgage has been a challenge over time prior to now because of the interest rate. For us in Stanbic IBTC, the commercial rate has always been MPR, that is the monetary policy rate, which is declared by CBN, plus one. CBN's monetary policy rate is 27%. So if you are to add 1% to it, that means the cheapest you will get a mortgage facility is 28%. And I also know some commercial banks who also want to make gain because they're also in the business of making profit, will do do the MPR plus 5. I've seen 33% interest rate on mortgage. And because of that interest rate, by the time we come to calculate how much you are able to access, it most likely will be nothing to write home about. Imagine you can just access 10 million naira, 15 million naira. Most likely you'll be looking out for a carcass to buy. Because in Nigeria today, or else you are leaving Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and maybe Ibadan for now, you most likely would not be able to get an affordable home. But with this interest rate, it has now made it easier and possible to get a higher limit in terms of what you can get. Every individual is entitled to a maximum loan amount of 100 million naira. However, this is subject to your monthly net income and your age. What your age does is it enables us to determine the tenure this facility can run. So if you are 40 years as of today, you are able to run this facility for the next 20 years if you are a salary earner. So you can run it for 240 months. So if you're 41, automatically you can only run it for 19 years. If you are 42, you can only run it for 18 years and on until you are 57, where it is the maximum age where you can run a mortgage in Nigeria. So if you're still 56, 57, you still have the last chance to quickly get a mortgage facility. But once you are above 57, then that is not possible again. So that's what the age does. Then the net income in comparison with your age then enables us to know how much you can conveniently pay on monthly basis compared to your income. And as it stands today, you cannot pay or take more than 35% of your salary as loan repayment on a facility. So it is based on that that we then calculate for that period of time based on your age to know what we can take from your salary and get to know how much facility we are able to give you. Another attractive thing about this product is prior to now, the minimum equity contribution that you might be required is about 15%. Even when this facility started in June, the minimum equity contribution was 20%, but it was later brought down to 10% just to make it affordable for everyone. So, what that 10% equity means is you need minimum of 10% of the property value that you want to buy, Andy, for you to contribute to the part that the bank will give you. So by the time we set your limit, we'll let you know how much from the 100 million you are able to access, right? And then that can give you a clear understanding of the kind of property you want to look out for, the kind of area that you're also going to look out for, and the amount of property, combining what your equity contribution will be and what the bank is willing to provide. In some instance, you want to buy a property that is way beyond 100 million naira. Yes, if your limit, your financial capacity can cover it, we are more than willing to give you up the complete 100 million naira under Mreif, which will run at 9.75. And we're also going to back it up with the extra limit you are able to get at 28%. At 28%. So you have your 100 million naira Mreif running, right, for that number of tenor. And we also have the excess of the basic mortgage also availed to you at commercial rate, and you run the two facility at the same time. For this product, right, you have to pay a fee, which is a management fee of 1%, and also an advisory fee of 1%. There are also some other costs which I will also talk about, which includes the starting cost, and the closing cost. But again, just to also take you through the journey of a mortgage process. After you know what your limit is, imagine I've been profiled based on my net pay and my age, and I can access the whole 100 million naira. I then go out to look for a property of choice that I want. Then from that property, if I find a property, let's say 120 million naira, I go for an inspection to see the physical structure, if I'm okay with it. If I'm okay with it, I request for an offer of sale letter from the seller or the valuer or the developer. Then I also request for a copy of the title document. And for emphasis, we only finance a property that has a registered title. And we're talking about either a certificate of occupants, we're talking about maybe a deed of assignment, a deed of sublease, a deed of conveyance, a deed of gift. We have different kind of deeds, right? Based on the purpose of which the property was transferred from one owner to the other. And so far it is registered, that is, the document have a governor's consent or its representative signed at the back of the title document, and he has a registration number, and he has a stamp. Those are the three things that identifies that the title document is registered. Then you request for it and a copy of an offer of sale. You present these two documents to us for us to do due diligence on. And on that due diligence, we are going to do search. We'll do legal search. And legal search is to confirm that the property you are buying does not have any encumbrance on it. It is also to confirm that there are no court issues or court order, or maybe government has also laid the property, there's a hold on the property. In doing the search, you'll also be able to discover if the property you want to buy, they've stated it that do not buy this property from my son Kamoru. These are restrictions that you find on a property. You want to be so sure that you're not buying a property and also getting a loan, and at the end of the day, you do not have the capacity to take ownership of that property. So that's what search does. We also now do valuation. For valuation, we'll send a valuer to the site to review and check the property, come up with a write-up, a valuation report, where it's going to let us know what the open market value will be, right, compared to what is acceptable in that area. It also gives you an idea if the seller is selling the property at a very extra price. Then that can give you a clear understanding on how you can negotiate, maybe downward, or still you want to go with the price. Then also the valuation report also lets you know how the structure of that property is, because the valuer will take pictures of the property, both inside and outside, and also make report on the findings on that property. It's going to make it clear if the property is well built and can be you can take possession and live in it. And it's also going to let us know if not, so that we do not finance a property and you also do not put your money in a property that is not okay to live in. Then we're also going to do charting. Charting is done for only Lagos property, and it's just to confirm that the property you are buying, right, is well situated on the approved survey that the land registry or the Ministry of Lands have approved, and to ensure that the property is not built on another land that's not been approved by Lagos State. And that's why sometimes you get to see on news or social media that some properties are being demolished, and then you wonder if government will compensate them. Government will only compensate if all this due diligence have been done and you are so sure you have your report at hand that you were not obstructing anything, all were clear when you took ownership. Definitely you are going to go into a conversation with the government and they will compensate you for that. But in a situation where you've just bought a property, they've possibly even given you a fake title that you never knew it was, you are not eligible for anything and the government will demolish over time. And again, we will now do verification of title. What verification is all about is to ensure that the person selling is not carrying about a clone document, and that happens a lot. Or maybe the person does not even have the right to sell that property. So we request for the original title document from the seller or the land property owner and take it to Alausa or the land registry in wherever state you are buying the property. And we're able to confirm if the title that was offered to you is original. It's also good to note that for us in Stanbic IBTC, we finance property anywhere in Nigeria across the 36 states. We finance so far the property as a registered title. Just to take us back a little bit, in getting the equity contribution of that 10% we're talking about, which is the minimum for salary earners in Nigeria, they are able to access their RSA contribution, that is their retirement savings account. Whatever your pension fund is, you are eligible to access 25% of that fund as of today and direct it towards home ownership, adding it as part of the equity contribution required for the property you want to buy. So for ease of calculation, whatever your pension fund is as of today, just divide it by 4. The value you get is readily available to be unlocked towards home ownership, making use of it as equity contribution. And for us in Stanbic IBTC, will help you unlock that fund, irrespective of where your pension account is, either in Stanbic IBTC pension, or excuse me, or any other pension managers that you might have the pension account with. Then the last thing, second to the last thing that you're also making payment for will be insurance. cost of securing the property and the life of the borrower. So we are going to do insurance on property and also do insurance on life. For insurance on property is 0.4% of the property amount, right? While the insurance of life is 0.2% of the loan amount, right? Those are the two payments that you're going to make. Then you also, in the beginning, the charging is 50,000 naira. The search is about 21,750, and the verification is 161,250. So less than about 300,000 you are going to do due diligence, which gives you a comfort of a lifetime that the property you are buying has no issues. Then the last and the closing cost on this mortgage facility would be the cost of perfection. And what perfection is all about is changing the ownership of the property from the previous owner to you, the new owner, which the bank would handhold the process by getting a solicitor. This is where the bulk payment is. Cost of perfection can range between 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 15 million naira. And this is subject to the type of property you are buying, the location, the price of the property, right? These are factors that are considered to get the price or the value of the cost of perfection. And it varies from state to state. And our legal team will usually advise on this. So once you have a property that you're interested in, you've known your limits, you bring these two documents that I've earlier mentioned, we do the due diligence. If all the reports comes out positive, we collect all other documents. If you are a Nigerian, we request for your pay slip, we request for your bank statement, we request for a recommendation, introduction letter from your employer here in Nigeria. And then we put your request forward to credit. If you're staying abroad, for us in Stanbic IBTC, for now, we only do for UK, we do for United Kingdom, we do for USA, we do for Canada and Saudi Arabia. Those are the four countries that we still attend to for diaspora mortgage. Over time, we are trying to expand to many other countries. And it's just because the documentation acceptable from different countries are different. So it then requires that we need to understand what is acceptable in those countries before we proceed. And for people in diaspora, we also will need their pay.
Okay. I think Mr. Dada, we lost the voice. Is it just me?
That you belong to, because again, for a diaspora, right, possibly a doctor. Can you see me, please?
Maybe you just want to say the sentence you had before then. We
Okay,
lost you
I
a
think I
while,
was
but
stripping up a
you're
little
all
bit.
good now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
audible now. Okay, great. So yeah, your pay slip, your recommendation letter from a professional body, if you are possibly a nurse, a medical person, IT, or from an association you belong, a registered association over there. You will need to request for your a recommendation letter. They will need your tax clearance. I'll also share the requirements with us after this presentation in the comment section where you're able to review. And once we get all these documents, we present it for credit approval. Once credit reviews, approves, then we issue you an offer letter. Once an offer letter is issued, you make payment for the insurance. And once payment for the insurance is made, our legal team proceed to make available legal document, the deed of assignment for the transfer of ownership, deed of legal mortgage. Those documents will be provided to you at no extra cost. And you then need to take those documents to the seller, to the main seller, the assigner on the title document, to sign off on all those documents. And you, the buyer, the assigner, the assignee, will now sign off on all those documents and provide us with some other documents which will be requested for. All those documents will be collected from you. And once all those documents are in place, you then make payment for cost of perfection. Upon payment, we will disburse this amount to your account. while the equity contribution required for you is also in your account. Then together with your own money and our own money, we then make this payment straight to the seller, and then the key of the house is handed over to you. You then become a homeowner. Two things I want us to take from this presentation is this facility, either it's an opportunity for us to become a homeowner, right? Take us away from being a tenant in Nigeria to become a landlord. And I can tell you for free, this dream can still be achieved this December. A mortgage process takes about 3 weeks, and we still have 3 weeks to go. It can even happen in 2 weeks if all documents and everybody comes to the party in terms of documentation and the likes. Then another way you can see it is an investment opportunity. 9.75, a single digit mortgage, has never ever happened in Nigeria before. This is the first time. And in terms of validity of this product, it is maybe one, while stock lasts, or two, while this current regime or administration lasts, because it is a government intervention. So those two things are subject to the validity of this product. So it is important that you review your circumstances and see how you can plug into this and get to use it immediately. I want to say thank you very much for listening. This is my email address. You can always send mails to me anytime, and I'll always respond to you. This is also my phone number. You can always drop a message, and within 24
Sorry,
hours, I
can
can
you
assure you
come
that you get a response
again, please?
from me.
I didn't get you actually.
Can I do what?
Sorry, I think I muted the person. It was an error. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, thank you very much. And at this point, I think I hand over back to Lukemi for possibly questions, if there are
Ooh,
any. Yeah.
very succinct. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. I love those comments. Like while you were talking, I was actually, just jotting and trying to make sure I'm soaking in all the information. One thing that I want everybody to have as a takeaway, for people that joined us later, I was saying that this is not an informative session. Not because we are not sharing information, but I think I've been on this for almost 5 years now, and I know sometimes there is a tendency for us to get information and say, oh, like Mr. Dada just said, this might be why stock lasts. If I got it correctly, you mentioned that the government and the private sector and individuals set aside 1 trillion naira for this. Stanbic has already disbursed 15 billion. I know other banks are also disbursing. So when this first tranche, I remember in banking, that's how we call it, like first tranche, like the first set, when the first tranche is done, you never know that they might reassess and the terms might change. And probably it might be with the administration leaving, because a lot of times all these initiatives are, the way government wants to also boost their portfolio to say this is what we have done to address the housing gap of 28 million in Nigeria. I also know that I think they have something in terms of building like 550,000 homes yearly, one of those initiatives. So please, I would like to use Pigeon this time around. No, sit down. I love the fact that this loan takes like 3 weeks to process. That tells you very fast, right? Very fast. So it depends on you. Whatever your hand finds to do it well and do it quickly. I can see some hands raised. I just want to clarify something, Mr. Dada.
Yes,
Um,
please.
what will you see as the first step? Will the first step be people reaching out to say, how much can I get based on my profile, like how much I earn and this document? Or will the first step be, let me go and look for a house that I like and now come back to Stanbic? From your experience, what would you say the first step is? Because that is very important.
Yeah, so the first step is for better is to get to know your limits, right? For those in Nigeria, it's better
Okay.
to know your limits before we proceed. But for those in diaspora, because the process is different, it's usually checked per credit. So it might
Okay.
be a bit of delay and challenging to say, let me get your limit first. So it's okay if you found the property, we do the due diligence, and you provide
Okay.
us with all the documents, and we submit your application. And then they can
Okay.
come back to say, okay, this is how much you can get.
Okay.
Also, for those in diaspora, we does do also base our conclusion on net. We also process your bank statement to look at the debits that are happening in terms of loan repayments, in terms of what your expenses are on a monthly basis to then or weekly basis to then determine how much is yours. Because again, loan repayment is from the final money left after covering all expenses for the month, rent, telco, and the likes. And then we finalize on that. So that's how it can vary. So for Nigeria, it's better you know your limit, but for diaspora, get your property, do due diligence, and then we submit all the applications together.
Okay. You also mentioned something on diaspora that you need recommendation from professional body. Is that if
Yes.
the kind of job you do, you need to be registered with a professional body like a doctor, you need to have license, or is that for everybody
So that's for people in diaspora, not
in,
for every
in
Nigerian,
Nigeria?
not for every
Is it
Nigerian. Yes.
everybody in diaspora that needs to get that later?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yes,
okay,
please. So if you, I just dropped a note now, the requirement for mortgage for in diaspora, you see
okay,
the professionals that we talked about, medical, engineering, IT consulting, those
okay.
are those that fall into this category, basically. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Don't worry. I still have questions, but I won't monopolize this
Mm.
because I'm the one that have the mic. I will
Mm.
not do that. I can see two hands raised up. Mommy, why? So please, can you go ahead to ask a question? And you can also drop in the chat box, please. Anybody that has question, please can you please drop yeah in the chat box so that I can also coordinate in case you don't want to speak. All right, mommy, why? Please go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sekinat.
Oh, I'm looking at. Please
So
go
I have
ahead.
a few questions for Mr. Dada. The first question is this mortgage stuff, is it available as a joint applicant? Say I want to do a joint application with my spouse. Is that an option that can be explored? One. Two, in the mentioning of the cost of what is going to, I think, cost of perfection in particular, I know you gave an estimate of whatever is going to be, and I want to ask, because the perfection is now going to be like in two folds. While we're changing the ownership from the seller to the buyer, that needs to be perfected for change of ownership. Also, the interest of Stanbic. To what extent are you going to be perfect? Are you going to be stamping to cover the total amount of the loan? Or there's a particular threshold you guys use to say we just want to register our interest and not just um covering the total amount that you're disbursing, because that can also drive up the cost to the borrower, right? That's two. And then the third one, you mentioned about doing a search on the title of the property to ascertain the true ownership, and if it's even permitted to be a residential, whatever it is. So for places like Abuja, that I know a lot of people that, like in my class, let me don't generalize, I will not be able to afford a property in Abuja that has its own C of O. And usually, what I would do is to go to estate developers and try to buy in an estate, which will be covered by maybe a single RFO or something. How has Stanbic been able to work around that? Is able to allow me do income earners to be able to own properties in Abuja that do not have even a perfectable document. At least that's my experience. What you have is maybe like an offer of sale, and then they can say they will give you a deed of partition, blah, blah, blah. So those are my three questions.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first one, joint application, very allowed. And what that does is it enable you have an increased limit, right? It provides you with an increased limit. So if, let's say, as the husband, I'm eligible to just 100 million naira, or let's say 50 million naira for the sake of number, I'm also able to profile my wife to know what she's eligible to, and she's also eligible to another 50 million naira. It then means we are able to take 100 million naira and we're able to get or buy a better property. However, for a joint application, you are both eligible to just 100 million naira of the Mreif and not 200 million naira because you are buying a single property. So you're only eligible to 100 if you both max out on the 100 separately and you're buying different property. Then the second one is on noting interest. Yes, we do not note interest on the entire amount of the loan or the property value. However, under the documentation, you will be signing an upstamping document where in case of default, the bank then proceed to upstamp the property value. So for a loan of 100 million naira, we most likely will just be stamping an interest of 20 million naira for the startup. And in case of default, we then present the document which we've already signed for the upstamping to the full amount of the loan. And then the third one, can you please remind me the third question?
The title of the property.
Yes, so yes, it's not negotiable. It has to be registered. If the property is not registered, we are not able to deal for mortgage. The property must be registered.
So does that
Okay.
mean like the Abuja scenario cannot work in this instance? Like I know what Shekinat was saying is like in Abuja, most times the
But
title
state
is
to
not
state, there
registered.
are there are so many properties that are not registered from state to state. So it's not peculiar to Abuja alone, right? So it's for you to look out for the one that is registered. Right? Yeah, so it's not like it's a generic situation where all properties in Abuja are not no. Of course, there are registered properties in Abuja, though Abuja might be peculiar because they have R of O or something, right? They also have C of O. So the documentation, like I said, documentations differs from state to state. But again, in all, the title, the property you are buying must be registered.
I
Thank
think
you.
you didn't get me completely. So, like the case with Abuja is somebody can have a C of O or R of O to like 100 acres of land, right, for mass housing development, and then the person partitions this property, this land into like 400 square meter, 300 square meters, and then sells to individuals and give them an offer that okay, this plot of this in this area of this belongs to you. Of course, the whole land has a proper documentation. But
General
me
C
that
of O,
yeah,
yeah.
but me that wants to buy the 400 square meter, I do not have. And I know that I think the new administration is trying to let everybody have their own. But of course, this thing is a process. They've started, I know, like a lot of applications are in the process and even the final stage of getting. So I'm saying, do you guys have a workaround that, given the current development, that this will come, but it's not like readily available that we can give at the point of parting away with money?
Okay, so we are ready to go further miles with you in terms of if the person that has the global C of O is willing to sign the new deed transferring ownership to you, then we are good. Because what it means is the person they've sold that piece of land, maybe 400 square meter to the developer, has not registered his or her own title on that property. For that reason, that developer is not eligible to sign the new deed of assignment transferring ownership to you, right? But if he's able to engage the previous seller who has a global C of O on that property, the land space, and the person is willing to sign the transfer of ownership, then we are good to go on that. But we can only deal with the one that's registered. So we can just take a step backward to then deal directly with the previous seller of that land.
Okay, so if I have a deed of sublease from the owner of the C of O, you can go ahead and deal.
if you're also able to confirm that that person is willing to transfer ownership to you directly.
No, but they can't transfer ownership because the COO covers a 10-hectare and I only own 300 square meter.
Yeah, so they
So,
will transfer ownership of the land, the one you are buying. They will sign the deed of assignment, and the survey would now be restricted to the one you are buying, and they will now sign allocation, like assigning the ownership of that space to you.
Okay. Okay.
okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much, Shekinat, for that question. Kemi, please go ahead.
Thanks, Kemi, for organizing this session, and thanks, Mr. Dada. So when I heard about this Mreif thing earlier in the year, I was so excited because that has been like my number one goal, because paying millions of naira to landlords. And I saw really that with my friends abroad, even though they were earning less, because they had affordable mortgage, which they could pay over 20 to 30 years. Some of them even have like 3 properties. So when I heard about this, I registered on the Mreif platform. And so I have a number of questions. So maybe I would ask it in twos or threes, and then you can respond, and I'll ask the rest. Okay, so I wanted to understand the interface between the Mreif platform and maybe the respective banks, because like for months I've been checking, and I saw some properties that maybe caught my interest, and I selected one last week and I chose Stanbic IBTC because I'm like, okay, this would be more convenient because my pension fund account is with Stanbic. So I chose Stanbic, but now it's been like maybe like the fourth or fifth day and I've not gotten a feedback. So I want to know, at what point does it get, to Stanbic? Because I got a response that said, okay, your interest has been submitted, would contact you and all that. So what's the interface with Stanbic in that regard? And then the second question is that on the platform, there is a 1% platform fee, and while you were talking, you mentioned that you were going to charge two fees, 1% each. So is this in addition to the 1% platform on the platform fee on Mreif? So yes, so I'll ask those two questions first.
Okay, first, have you been contacted after you've filled the application? Has anybody in Stanbic reached out to you?
Nobody in Stanbic has reached out to me yet.
Yes, okay. You can always send the mail to me. I don't know if you got my mail, so I can
No,
check
I didn't.
out for your application. Secondly, we do not manage that Mreif platform. It's managed
Okay.
by an independent person, not even Ministry of Finance. It's managed by
Oh,
an
okay.
independent person, and then that's why you see different banks drop down. So upon selection and the likes, the notification comes to us, and then we can pick from there, right?
Okay.
Um, However, I'm just hearing this platform fee of 1% for the first time. And like I
Yeah.
said, we don't handle that platform, right? So, but again, we can engage further out of the platform. If you found the property, if they've given you offer of sale and title document, we're able to take the conversation further away from the platform and then proceed with the requests.
Okay, thank you. So the other questions I have is, does it cover off-plan sales? Like, a lot of developments in Lagos, they may not be fully
No,
ready.
MRIF
They may
does
be
not
under
cover
construction.
off-plan.
Okay,
MRIF does not cover off-plan. It's for completed property. However, we do off-plan purchase in Stanbic, but that is at the commercial rate of 28%. And also we pay in installments and is only available for property under some registered developers of the bank because of the risk attached to off-plan property.
okay. Then the other thing you said around, the limit being 100 million, that if one wants anything outside that, um, it will be on commercial terms. So I wanted you to clarify what you meant by commercial terms. What kind of rates are
Yes,
we looking
that
at?
is 28%. 28%.
Okay, okay. Okay. And then, like, tying to what Shekinat asked, because I also had a question around the title, because I know title cost is crazy. Like, one of my colleagues processing with another bank is telling me he didn't know, and that the cost is going to like around 6 million additional cost that I didn't even budget for. So what would you say from your experience is typically the percentage? Like, is it 3%? Is it 5%? Of the property value or the value of the interest that you're
So
noting.
there's no
I just wanted to
direct
have a sense.
calculation to it. So
Okay.
there's no direct calculation to it. Like I mentioned, it's subject to type of property, where the location of property, price of property, and what is acceptable, because there are some regulatory payments that you are making.
Okay.
Like if you're buying property in Ogun State, I can tell you that cost of perfection in Ogun State is almost double cost of perfection in Lagos State. And so
Hmm.
all these things are applicable in terms of location. So you'll be advised. But again, like I mentioned, that's where the bulk payment is. But what we're able also to now do in Stanbic is, because you have 100 million naira limit, right? If
Yes.
let's say what your financial capacity can cover is up to 50 million naira, we are able to accommodate some excess to cover the cost of perfection and add it to the loan amount and book it for the total period of the facility. Because that has always been a showstopper for many. They get to that point and they say, I'm not aware I have to pay 5 million naira. I have nothing with me. So we're able to add it
Okay.
to the cost, to the loan amount, and then book it as a facility for you.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Kemi, just
Thank
one
you.
more last question, and it's on these fees, because I wanted to be sure of like the total fees, because for some banks, you're hearing fees like, oh, cost of creation of SPV, cost of annual filing, so I just wanted to like have a clear picture on your total costs as Stanbic. Thank you.
So the ones that are specific are the ones that I've mentioned. Every other one that are regulatory, stamp duty, this and that, comes with the cost of perfection. And we always give you a breakdown, even at the beginning of their journey. Once you give us a title document, we do due diligence and ready to go, we can give you a schedule of what the cost you expect should be, at least an estimate, and before you proceed. And if you're okay with it, you can proceed, right? But the due diligence, like I said, is just within a range of 300,000 naira. And then the insurance is 0.4% of the loan amount for property, and 0.2% of the property value for property. I don't know if I mixed it up. 0.2% of the property value is for the property insurance, and 0.4% of the loan amount is for life insurance. So that's how that works. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
so yeah, thank you so much, Kemi, for those questions. Those are really good. I know we still have some hands up, Mr. Nun. So I wanted to chime this in before we proceed. One of our objectives is to make the process very seamless for our people. And I really
Okay.
love how you're taking us through. I like the fact that when you were like, oh, the next step is number one, look for how much you're eligible for. So in Canada, they call that pre-approval, right? So most times before you even start looking for house, you go to a mortgage specialist. This is what I earn, blah, blah, blah. They've already told you upfront, this is what you are qualified for. So it's not like you're looking for a house of 300 million, whereas what you are qualified for in terms of naira is just 50 million naira, right? So it helps you to align what you are looking for with what you are qualified for, so that you don't waste the time of the agent that is taking you around
Yeah.
and your own time, because that happens a lot. Somebody is believing God, which is true. Of course, we have faith and all that, but sometimes you also have to look at reality, which is where, if you are not in the savings challenge group, please just let me know. You have to join the group, because we share a lot. I started a series on, like, when you're buying a home, what you should look at. Most times we look at our destination home. So the idea of the destination home is like, oh, a home with a pool, with all that. Whereas sometimes when you have to start, you just need to start with, what will match where you are. If you're renting, the first objective is you don't want to rent again. So just buy something that might be at par with what you have, currently. So this is a whole journey of understanding a bit. Where I'm saying this is this: we understand that first step, like, let's know what I'm eligible for, so that at least it can even guide what I want to buy. But in terms of fees, I know I can't hold you to fees in terms of, just like you mentioned, it depends state by state and all that. But can you give a range? So here, for example, they call it closing cost. They would never tell you this is the amount. But everybody knows, they will say, okay, maybe between 2 to 5%. So I know like this is the range. And I really appreciate Tambi for what you're saying. Like that's showstopper, because some people, what they just have is what they will use for down payment, right? Like that is all they have. So I like the fact that you said you can add it to, the total loan amount. So at least that's helping a lot of people. So you can hear that. So let's say you're qualified for 50 million, or you want out of 60 million. So far, at least it's not up to the 100 million. You can have that closing cost. So can you help us understand what the range is from your experience, at least based on
So let's say for a property in Lagos, let's say you're buying a property of about 100 million naira. Your cost of perfection will be close to about 7 million naira, between
So
6 to 7 million naira.
okay, so that's like 6 to 7%. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yes.
That's really helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which okay, that's helpful. I have a question. You mentioned someone was asking about spouse. I think that was Shekinat. If spouse want to buy different houses, let's say they want to buy two different houses, not the same, and based on their profile, they are qualified. Let's say they can find two different duplexes, maybe semi-detached or whatever. They want to buy one, and each of them is qualified for 100 million. Will you approve, since it's different?
Because we'll profile them separately and they buy the property separately.
Okay,
Of
perfect.
course.
All right, that works. For the people with the hands up, I'm coming to you now. I just want to trash the questions that relate to the questions we've had, so that we don't start jumping around. The last question I have is this. You were mentioning the insurance on property. You said 0.2%, right? And
On property, 0.4%, 0.2% of the property amount.
okay, of the property,
Then life is 0.4 of the loan amount.
property amount, okay. And life is 0.1 of the loan amount, okay. So
Yes.
for some people, must that be done with Stanbic, or they have the liberty of having that done with another insurance company and bring it?
Okay, so we use Stanbic brokers.
Okay,
However, a form will be given to you. You can as well also state the insurer you want, and then the
okay,
brokers
okay,
can also engage them. Yeah.
okay, okay. Then the insurer you want. Okay, just that clarification. All right. Thank you so much. But they please, can you go ahead?
Yeah, thank you very much for. I think I'll start from the last question you asked, and that's about life insurance. Assuming you have an existing life insurance, is it okay to note Stanbic as one of the beneficiaries rather than doing another life insurance? Then the second question will now be,
Okay.
does it cover refinancing a property? Let's say I have a property that I'm into already, but I've not finished paying, maybe because of all these high interest rates, so I don't want to use it to refinance. Can I use Mreif to refinance? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for those valid questions. One, for the refinance, Mreif, as of today, does not cover refinance, but most likely along the line might start. But as of today, it's strictly for new purchases. Then for the life insurance, every life insurance is tied to a purpose. So many life insurance that we all have is tied to us working with an organization, and the organization has done life insurance on us so that in case of eventualities in the course of work, the family is paid on something. The employer has not covered your exposure in terms of loan outside. So there's no way you can note Stanbic in your loan, right? To now say, please, this life insurance should cover debt that I have. So you can have more, you can even have 10 life insurance because of different policies that cover it. So the answer is no, you can't use the existing life insurance for this facility. You have to do a life insurance purposely for this loan.
Okay, sorry, I'm not in Nigeria, so but you can have a term life insurance that is not backing anything. You just want to do a life insurance. What
Okay.
if it is not tied to anything? I just have a life insurance, but because I have
So
a
which country
maximum
do you have
amount,
this life insurance? Is it Nigeria?
No, it's not in Nigeria. I have one in Nigeria too, but that is not tied to anything. I'm just saying, if I have anything that is not employer based, but it's just a life insurance that is open, my beneficiaries are my spouse and my family. However, because I have a loan now, because it also matters
Okay,
depending on your age. If I want to do,
if the insurance company is willing to take up the responsibility
okay,
of this and they issue a new policy, of course, we can always
okay,
have that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, buddy. What I also envisage is if it's not tied to anybody, you still have the beneficiaries, right? Which can be your
Mm.
spouse and kids. So if the insurance company is able to change the beneficiary, because of course, in that instance, the beneficiary has to change to Stanbic, right? In that instance, it won't be the family again.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so before I come to the chat room, I want us to finish the people with their hands raised. Yeah, Mr. Shegun, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Dada, for the well-articulated presentation. What I want to ask is based on the second one, that as a business owner, okay, just reading some chat that you posted, and I'm just reading it, which has answered the first part. But how do you, how can one, like assess, how do you know the amount that will be given to a business owner? What's your criteria? Whether it's 50 million, whether it's 70 million, whether it's 100 million. How do you assess that? I just want to know
Yeah, so all those
for
documents
the
we've
business
requested for
owners.
is basically for the assess. Yes, yes. So all those documents we've requested for are just basically for the assessment. The 3 years financials, the cash flow analysis, the bank statement. Those are for the assessment. So that we have specialist experts who would analyze the finances of the organization and tell you this is how much we're able to give you based on all these that we've reviewed.
Okay. Thank you very much. What about if let's say the turnover for those 12 months is running to maybe 1 billion naira in the account, and the profitability is like, let's say, like for the year, like 50, 100 million. Can you still, like, what range? Just let's have a range now. What range is it likely that you offer?
So for business, I can't give you a range because it is not straightforward like that. If you're talking about salary, I can just pick my calculator now and do it. For business, it doesn't work that way. Again, we are also going to pay more attention on your financials because turnover doesn't mean the business is healthy. I'm making a turnover of 1 billion doesn't mean all the 1 billion is mine. All the 1 billion can be the capital that is just turning around, buying and selling, and your spread is just 2 naira on every 1 million naira turnover you have. So we look at the profit you're declaring, and there's a percentage of the profits we believe you can put into loan repayment. Also, we want to know the contracts you have at hand. What business are you doing? So it's not just basing it on the financials. No, we go in depth into the business. We want to also know that the business you are doing can actually give this turnover that you've stated. They also want to be so sure that you have an ongoing contract that will continue to bring in money for this period of time. For business, the maximum tenure we do for business is 7 years. That's the maximum we do. So we go in depth into your business analysis, request for your contract documents, invoices, and the likes to then profile you accordingly.
Okay, thank you. That one make me to ask another question now. For example, if the business now, that business they're not using it for maybe personal reason, maybe for the business owner, but for maybe commercial purpose. Do you still do that? Is that too inclusive of your offer?
No, I don't understand. Please come again with that.
Yes, assuming the business they're using the property. Let's say the property they want that they're requesting that you finance is for commercial purpose, maybe for let me say investment purpose.
Okay, like
You understand?
Airbnb.
like Airbnb, like
so far the
short let
property is
and all
built
those
for
things.
residential. So far it's not a
Okay.
shop, it's not a complex.